Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Lazouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we'll not talk specifically about EUMDR or IVDR. So I wanted to provide some kind of soft skill that people will maybe learn from, but to always related to quality and regulatory affairs. I mean, we'll try to make it related to quality and regulatory affairs, which is more about communication skills or where to communicate inside a company, also during within the quality and regulatory affairs. And for that, I have Lesley Worthington, who is helping us to understand that and maybe help us also to improve our skills and that. And maybe, as I said, I will also learn something that I can apply there. So Lesley, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Thank you very much, Munir. Happy to be here. Happy to give everybody a break from the regular quality stuff, right?
Exactly.
This is a little lighter, but I think a little more important even.
It's really important because, and we talked about that because as we discussed, there is a lot of things here that I'm sure that people will recognize or maybe see that, oh, it's really important, this part.
Yeah.
But before that, let's maybe introduce yourself or who you are, exactly what you are doing so that people know, and where you are based also, because people want to know also where people are located there.
Absolutely. I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
So Toronto, Canada. I've been here not my whole life, almost my whole life. So I worked for 2 decades as a quality assurance / regulatory manager in a series of medical device companies in Canada. About 5 years ago, I thought, I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay.
I had done that while I was raising my kids. And then it's like, okay, now what do I want to do? They were leaving the house and I'm like, what do I want to do when I grow up? So I sort of stepped away from that. I had the luxury to be able to give myself a little bit of time. And I went heavy into teaching. I just found opportunities to teach and I realized, oh yeah, I remember when I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a teacher. And so it's like I sort of came to this point finally in my life and I just had forgotten about it for 40 years. So I've been teaching children online for the last few years. And then I thought, I want to do more than this. But I wasn't sure what to do with it. And then I realized, you know what I can do? I know a lot about quality. I know a lot about regulatory. I'm gonna figure out a way to help people with English in this particular niche. So that's what I do. I'm a communication coach for quality assurance people, usually non-native speakers, but I actually have some native speakers now because I also help with writing skills. But so that's what I do. So I'm combining my passions and my knowledge, and I love it.
And it's great. And as I said, what I really liked with Lesley is the fact that she had also a career in quality and regulatory affairs, which also relate to helping us to understand some of the things that maybe we can improve in our communication skill or whatever, because I suppose you had also a lot of experience with issue on communication or people not talking the right thing or not the right way, etc. So which maybe, is, I mean, as I've said, maybe a lot of people are also relating to that and are experiencing that also. So mainly what is important and to discuss here, as I said, the objective is really to point out to some of the issues or some of the things that we can improve here. So in your if I can say mindset, so what is important here? Why is it important to have some kind of good communication skills in QA area, specifically in quality and regulatory affairs? Because I feel sometimes that our field is not appreciated, well appreciated by people.
That's the word. Yeah.
Because maybe also the way we are talking, we talk about a lot of acronyms, a lot of things. So why is it so good, if I can say, that QA area people are maybe improving their communication skills here?
Well, good question. And like, it's not even a matter of like non-native English speakers. It's not a language thing. It's literally a communication thing. Exactly. Even when I was working in a purely English-speaking companies for 20 years, communicating about this was tough, right? And I was speaking my native language, and they were in their native language. So it is tough. But I think communication is probably the most important part of the role of a quality person, because quality impacts every single part of the organization, right? The quality person has to be able to speak effectively with everyone from top to bottom and inside and outside the organization, right? Everybody, auditors, inspectors, regulators, notified bodies, customers, vendors, distributors, And that's just outside the organization. And then inside the organization, directors, CEOs, owners, warehouse staff, customer service, marketing people, right? Everybody. You have to be able to communicate with everybody. And often these are high stakes communications, right? A device license is at stake, possibly, right? Or an ISO certificate, who knows, right? Or it's a stressful conversation. Most of the conversations you have with your people that are below you are you're telling someone what to do. You're telling someone to change something. You're telling someone to fix something. They made a mistake. You're telling someone bad news. You're saying there's a recall. You're not having pleasant conversations most of the time. So when we're communicating from the top down, like to the CEO, your goal really is to get your upper management on side, right? You have to get them to understand quality and what it's all about so that they can embrace and lead with it. Because ultimately that's what we want to be happening in our companies. We want this culture of quality happening. Now with the rest of the people, it's about helping them understand how their role fits into the bigger picture and how quality is integral to all of it. Like you sort of can think of a company as all these little bits. There's like the company goals, there's employees, there's shareholders, there's the product, right? There's the customer. So there's all these parts, and everybody's an expert busy doing their thing in their special area, right? But quality is the thing that connects everything together. And somehow you have to get that message to everybody.
Exactly. And I think also it's what we are saying mainly is that quality is creating or defining the laws of your company, what you have to do, how you have to do that. And sometimes, it's important to understand this law or understand what people will be doing. So the way of communication is really something that can be critical so that people understand and make it, or they don't understand at all. Say, oh, yeah, we'll do it like that, but I have no clue what you are talking about.
And most people are not going to admit they don't understand what you just said.
Exactly.
Like, especially if you're talking to the CEO and you throw around some acronyms, even CAPA. I bet you a lot of CEOs don't know the difference between a correction, a corrective action, and a preventive action, right?
I agree.
Right. And so, but they're not going to tell you that. They're just going to nod and then whatever, right? So it comes down to the communication, because we're not even giving all these people a fighting chance because we're not speaking in their language, right? We're not, and I'm not talking English as the language. I'm talking about, like, we have to talk in management speak when we're talking to the manager, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
So it's interesting, as you said. So talking at the level of the person is something that is important. I had an experience this morning, specifically. We have a surgeon that we are helping for placing a device on the market. So he invented something, and he said to me after maybe 2 or 3 meetings, he said, Munir, on the meetings you are talking about IFU. What's that IFU? I mean,
yes.
I'm used to say IFU for instruction for you, so IFU. But for him, it was like, but he waited 3 meetings to then at the end say, Munir, sometimes you are saying some acronyms I have no clue. Say, yes, tell me what it is so I can help you. But he said, yeah, but at that time I thought maybe it was something that everybody knew and only me doesn't know, etc. Because he said to me, I have my own language. I'm a surgeon. I have my own language, but I'm not using that here. And you have your own language. Sometimes when you are using that, sometimes you think that I understand, but I don't understand what you're mentioning.
And that's the problem. And that is exactly what people have to start realizing. They have to know who they're talking to. And that's really, like, whether we're talking about our writing or our speaking, we have to know the audience, right? We have to. I mean, your surgeon knows probably 400 different words for knife, right? Like, there's this kind of knife and that kind of knife. But he wouldn't talk to you like that. He would just say, oh, this is a knife we use, right?
Exactly. He
would use a regular, familiar word. So you have to know your audience well enough to know what words are familiar to them, right? So that's really the trick. And so you have to take the time to know the people that you're working with, right? So like when you're talking to the management, CEO, for instance, you have to understand what motivates the manager or the CEO. You have to understand what keeps him up at night. What is he worried about? What makes him jump for joy, right? then you got to go for that. That's how you have to talk to them. And you have to make it whatever you're trying to achieve as a quality person, you have to not worry about what you're trying to say. You have to worry about what you need him to hear, right? So it's like, okay, you need something to happen. You need money for training or something like that. So you don't go, oh, Mr. Boss, I need money for training. We need, our quality systems are wrecked. Nobody knows what they're doing. No, that's not going to work. You go, okay, what matters to this guy? Brand reputation, maybe.
Exactly.
Whatever it is, right? And you go, okay, all right, I gotta show him that what I want is connected directly to what he wants. He can get what he wants if he supports me over here. And so that's the kind of communication. And you have to have that conversation in words that he understands. Right?
Exactly.
The only people you should use quality words with are quality people. That's it, right? Notified bodies, okay, regulators, inspectors, okay, that's it. Everyone else, you have to, so you have to be a master of knowing a whole bunch of different languages. Like really, you got to be able to talk to the people that have no education and are sitting in the warehouse packaging stuff up. They need to know how to deal with their procedures and what to do if there's a mistake and blah, blah, blah. But you can't talk to them with the big old quality words or they'll be like,
Yeah, it's also important that what we are talking is that we are saying it, but also we are writing it. And sometimes we have also the procedures that we are using because we say you have to do it on that way, on that way, on that way. Mainly it's written on the procedure, step 1, do this, step 2, do that, etc. And sometimes the issue is when we are writing that, we are using those kind of vocabulary that we know and we think it's good, it's fancy also to have that. It will show that we are really professional, etc. But at the end, if you give that to a warehouse workers operator that has to lift this and that, and you tell him in words, because of ISO 13485, paragraph 6.5 of this, you have to do this. He doesn't care. For him, what exactly should I do? And then let's tell me exactly. And this and what we say also is that sometimes you are writing, but maybe sometimes it's better to put a graph. Exactly. Maybe sometimes it's better to put a picture. Maybe it's so this is really important also.
You got it. And once again, we're back to the audience and the purpose. The two main things, audience and purpose, audience and purpose. Why am I writing and who is it for? And so when you're writing procedures, I mean, this is a big job for quality people. They spend a lot of time on this. So like, it's important to figure out how to do this. And it's a process. Any writing is a process. Even writing an email is a process. Yeah. It's a process. It's not just, you don't just write it. You don't just take a template and cut and paste and done. No, it's a process. And the first thing you got to do is prepare. You got to be thinking of the purpose, the audience, the scope, the context, and the requirements, right? And then you got to kind of just brain dump, like, okay, what's all the stuff I have to consider? And then, when you're thinking about the audience, what does this person know? What does this person not know? What does this person need to know? What education level is this person? Does this person even speak English as their first language? And then, so that's really what has to happen in the first. You have to think of these things, right? And then, when you're thinking about, sorry, I lost my chain of thought. Can you stop?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so when you're doing your writing, you got to prepare, then you got to organize. So after you got all your thoughts down and you know who my audience is, what my purpose is, then you got to organize it. And this is when you started talking about, should I do a graph? Should I do a chart? How should I do this? So when you're figuring out how to structure it and organize your procedure, this is when you're thinking about how is this going to be used? Like, where's it? Is it going to be up on the wall somewhere?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be looked at once a year? Like what is it for? How is it going to be used? And so what's the easiest way to represent this information? So again, I really don't think you should go for templates. Yes, I think all of your stuff within your organization should have the same look and feel to it so that people can find things within the documents. But I think every procedure that you write, you have to come at it fresh, right? Because the other thing too is when you're preparing and you're figuring out the purpose and all this, you have to talk to the person who does the job, right? You have to talk to the person who does the job. You can't just randomly write this procedure based on maybe how it's been done for the last 30 years or how it's done somewhere else.
I have some examples like that where a quality person writes a procedure for someone that is on the field doing the job. And at the end, the quality person says, I think this person should do this, should do that, should write this, should do that. It's what they think because it's better. If they do that, it's better. So if I write it on the procedure, they will do it. But it's not working like that at all.
No,
so,
you have to be.
It's really the worst thing that you can do because they will not do it because they were not used to do that and they maybe are not able to do it. And worst, during an audit, they will identify that the procedure says that and the person is not doing that, then you have a non-conformance here. So this is really the worst thing that can happen to you.
The purpose of the procedure is to make sure that something is done right and something is done the same way by every single person every single time, right? So there should be no decision making at all in the procedure. Like that's done in the writing stage. Like before the procedure is finished, it's like, and so you got to be very, very careful about your word choice, right? No shalls. What does shall mean? I don't even know what shall means, right? It's like musts and no shoulds. Shoulds and shalls, get rid of them. It doesn't matter what the regulations say either, because the regulations are full of shalls. It's like, well, they're not well written. So don't worry, like don't copy the regulations if the regulations aren't clear.
No, it's clear.
Make sure you're clear be very accurate about the words you pick. And that accuracy part and choosing the right words comes in the revision part. So you've already figured out, you've prepared, you've talked to the process owner, you've known what you're going to write, you know how you want to set it up, you write the thing, then it's time to revise. Then you look carefully, what words have I chosen? Are these the right words? Is it clear? If a stranger came in off the street and I gave them this, would they be able to do the task?
Exactly.
Like right? That's it. That's what it's supposed to be. If everybody suddenly walked out the door and got hit by a train, can the two people that are left run the company?
Exactly. And it's exactly what I'm using when somebody comes to me with some procedure. I say, if I have to do it, if you give it to me, will I be able to do it without your support? And sometimes when I read that and I try, I say, no, you didn't mention here what I should do. I arrived to this step. Now what? Oh, it's obvious. You have to do that and that. No, it's obvious for you because you know about that since 10 years you are doing that. Yeah. But me, I have no clue if I have to do it. As you've said, you are hit by a bus or whatever. So then what should we do? And then we are blocked. And this is mainly the problem that is happening.
Yeah. And so a lot of times, like all of quality comes down, like, I know that whoever's listening to this is going, oh yeah, that's obvious. Like it's all common sense, but we forget about it because we're so stuck in the details. We're dotting our I's, we're crossing our T's, we're learning all the regulations, we're learning the standard, we're worried about the audit. And we forget we're dealing with humans, we're dealing with a company, we're trying to sell products that work and that are safe. That's it. That's all we're trying to do. Right.
Exactly.
And so it's like, just settle down, stop being smart. It's not about being smart. Even when you're talking to your CEO, hopefully you got the job because you're smart and you know your quality stuff, right? You don't have to prove it anymore. All you have to prove to the boss is that you know how to talk. You need to prove to the boss that you know what motivates him or her. And then you have to figure out, how do you talk about quality in a way that he or she gets it and gets like, oh yeah, all right, I can get what I want if I support the quality system.
I think it's great. I think it's exactly that. And yeah, I'm trying to do that. For example, when I'm creating my blog post or my things, to write it in a certain way that is understandable by anybody, that is really easy language, if I can say. And this is really something that I'm trying to do, because I know that the one that will be reading that are maybe the people that are just starting their business, have no clue about quality, have no clue about regulatory. So let's try to explain them in an easy way instead of making myself, oh, I am professional, I know everything, hire me for this. So this is really appreciated sometimes. And I think people have to arrive at, as you said, this stage. Exactly.
Yeah, and the realization is, the thing is, most people in this area have lots of education. Yeah. So they're used to, being around smart people and, working on PhD theses and things like this, and speaking and writing in an academic way. But this isn't academia. This is business, and it requires a complete change of approach, really. And it's not about showing how much you know. It's about getting things done.
Exactly.
That's all it's about. And then you mentioned a couple of times, and like, your writing is really clear. Like you are writing for an audience that, like any audience. And to me, the real test of if you're an expert is, can you explain something complex in a simple way?
Exactly.
Right? And it's not even about simplicity. It's about familiarity. So it doesn't mean choose the simplest, easiest word. It means choosing words that you know are familiar, right? So, it might be a long word that's familiar. Most people know what the word communication is, but that's a pretty long word. But do people know what the word ilk means?
Okay.
It's a 3-letter word. I'm sure I can define it properly, right? So it's not about simple or short. It's about familiar to the audience. And so it all comes back to knowing your audience. Your audience is people who might be new to this role or new to this industry. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to help them along. I'm going to help you. You can't talk below them. You can't talk to people like they're idiots, but you also, can't talk above them, or not even above. Like, it's almost like in another language.
Exactly.
Just talk to them in a way that you know that they are familiar with.
No, it's great. I think it's great. I have another case where I'm always struggling, if I can say, when we are trying to work on the quality and regulatory fields, is about recording some events. So we have, for example, and it's always the case when we arrive to make an audit with a notified body or with things. So they are asking us to show them our CAPAs, like we talked about CAPAs before, so corrective action, preventive action, our non-conformances, our complaints, and they ask us, describe me what happened, what have you done, what is your investigation? I mean, tell me the story, if I can say, of that. Yeah. And we have always issues because we don't have all the information that are needed inside that. So they say, yes, we received that day, but if I go after 1 year, maybe I have my audit, I have to explain, yes, it's just mentioned we received it, but who received that? What was done? Was there thing? So this is something that is also important, if I can say, to have a story that people can recognize. And as you've said, for a procedure, you have to understand exactly what are the steps that you have to do. Here it's to say what happened exactly, so that we can explain it and explain exactly what we have done. And that what we have done is really at the level of what happened. It's not like we are making more or less.
No, yeah. And so documenting things right away is critical, right? Because you keep it fresh, because like human nature is like, when something big happens, we think we'll never forget it, right? But then a week later, we're like, wait, what happened again? Right? So it's really important that while it's fresh, to capture it, right? And so this sort of, even though, science people think the word storytelling is a little bit like, oh, how is this related to what I do? But it's the elements of storytelling that will help you recall what it is that happened whatever you're recording, surround it in context. Give all the details of exactly what happened, because the story is basically, it's about like a character, a goal, a conflict, and a resolution. And so you've got those things right there. You've got all the information. The character is like, was it a product? Was it a customer that was a product? Like, be really clear about what that is. And then the conflict is obviously what happened, what went wrong, right? And the resolution is what you did. So you've got all the elements for a story. And then the real thing to sort of help you remember is to now weave some emotion into it. And so you kind of got to and back everything up with facts, right? So that when you go back to look at these notes, you're like, oh yeah, I remember. And you can tell the auditor, as soon as your auditor feels like you've got everything under control, I mean, the whole rest of your audit is good too, right? Because the minute you look like it's so, the way you approach your first few questions in your audit determine the whole next couple of days. Because if you look like you're like, oh God, then the auditor will start looking deeply. But so when you're recording things, and when you're telling other staff or the auditor even, wrap it up in emotion. And so the emotion is, the way to get the emotion is you got to kind of know, that goes back to the audience, right? So if this is a CAPA, for example, that involves maybe you got to get some, maybe the end result, the decision is, we got to get some funding for training. I keep going back to that because it's a big thing. Yeah. So, you had this problem, you've gone through all the the analysis, and you've gone through the root cause thing. You're like, we need money. I'm going to go have to talk to the boss now. And so you're like, oh God. And so you got to tell this story. You got to tell the story in a way that the boss, like your goal is to get the money from the boss.
Yeah.
That's your goal now, right? But really the goal is for the boss to see that giving that money helps the boss get his goals, right?
And,
So the story.
Exactly, and the fact is that there is no more issue like that will happen, that we are training people on the way, that we are avoiding that, which maybe cost also some millions. So we have, as you mentioned, in terms of the language, is the fact maybe you will pay us a $1,000 or $2,000 for this course, but we can save 100,000 by issue. Exactly.
Exactly.
This is kind of the language that we are talking about.
Exactly. It's the boss responds to money, and the boss responds to what he's going to tell shareholders. That's basically it, right? So it's like, okay, whatever problem you have, you got to address the boss in that way, but in his language to get what you need in terms of quality support. And so it's not easy. It's not easy, but this is what you have to start thinking about. You don't just barrel in and say, we need money, and talk about quality and this and that. Like, no, show the boss that you're the expert and you know all about his business goals. You know all about the vision for the company, all that stuff. Like, show that you know that.
So in terms of attitude, if I can say, I am maybe, I don't know, but I'm thinking myself as an introvert person, and some others say, no, you are extrovert because you are showing up on front of camera. Other things, I am more analytics. Others say, no, you are more like a driver, etc. You know, those things that we are analyzing. So at certain points, we have also some people that are thinking differently because they want to provide them too much detail, and the boss wants just the headlines. Don't need to provide me details, just the headlines that I see if there is something important. So how can maybe people improve themselves when they are trying to communicate with other people? So I know there is some techniques, but is there some way that, for example, I maybe know what is the kind of, in which box I have to put this person, so it's in that way I have to talk to them, or in which box I am already, so it's why I'm talking like that. So is there something that can be done on that way?
Well, you know what this is all about? Again, I sound like a broken record here. It's all about the audience. I mean, there's so much psychology involved in communication. It's not the words. The words are the smallest part of it. It's about knowing who you're talking to and knowing what motivates them and knowing the type of person you are. Like, I also am, believe it or not, I consider myself an introvert.
Yeah,
like, I do. But nobody believes it who sees me like this. But it's like, no, I am. I'm talking to you. I feel like I'm talking to one person. No problem. But like, I'm an introvert. Anyway, so you got to know. And if you're dealing with somebody who's an introvert, you might have to change how you react to them and how you respond to them and how you push them. And some people don't want to be pushed. Some people need to be pushed. Like, you really have to know your people, all your people. And as the quality person, take the time, and as awkward as it is, force yourself to have small talk with people. Go to the coffee room, find out, they have kids. Find out about people and what makes them tick, because this has so many good things that can happen from this. A, you know the person better, but B, they're gonna realize you're just a person. You're not the police, because right now they think you're the police, right? So it's like, then the lines of communication are open. Then they slip up or they notice something and they'll be like, well, I saw this thing the other day. I just thought I'd talk to you. All of a sudden that changes everything. Now everybody's empowered to play a real role in quality, and it's a team. And once it feels like a team, then you're unstoppable, and it changes everything. It kind of does have to come from above, though. But I feel like your role as a quality person is to get that message to the guy at the top or the woman at the top.
Exactly.
That's your most important thing. And then keep the lines of communication and support all the other people.
No, I think it's
language. Yeah,
I think it's exactly that, and thank you for reminding that to everyone. Lesley, so in terms of your activities, as you've said, we talked a lot about communication skill, etc. So what kind of, as you said, you are training some adults also in quality and regulatory affairs. So what are you proposing as a training? What are you other things, that services maybe that you are providing that people maybe can contact you for that?
Yeah, anyone can contact me through LinkedIn. I have a website that's under construction, but I will have a website. So I'm doing one-on-one coaching right now still.
Okay.
And I'm planning on doing group coaching at some point. I just haven't got to that point yet because I also do a lot of editing. I have lots of different things that I'm doing. So I do one-on-one communication coaching for quality people, not necessarily in medical devices, also pharma and biotech.
Okay.
And this is communication skills coaching. And most of my clients are non-native English speakers. Okay. So it's just helping them get through the types of things that they would have to navigate in the course of their day, their work, right? So meetings, maybe conference calls, maybe whatever it is, audits, writing. I also help native and non-native speakers with writing skills. I have a real focus on plain language, which is exactly how you're already going in that direction with the way you personally write. It's like writing for the people,
exactly.
Right? Writing in a way that can be understood. And because think how much time we spend on emails, right? Like if we could just write and read emails, right? So anyway, writing is a big thing. I love writing and I love helping people with writing. So I help people with writing. That's the other thing I do. And that right now, that's really the main things I do. I'm just mainly a one-on-one coach for writing and communication skills.
No, I think it's great. And so if you are listening to that and what you listen, maybe you think that you have a problem with that, with your communication skills or whatever, and you need to improve and you need maybe to find some solutions to some of the problems that you have. So don't hesitate to contact Lesley. Anyway, I think Lesley, so I will put all your details, so LinkedIn, etc., on the show notes. So that people can communicate directly with you. So I think for me, really, it's worth it to have that, because in our careers, it's really important to be seen as someone that people can come to talk to, and to that gets also this feeling that you can help to maybe get to this quality field or regulatory field. So at the end, getting coached also for that and learning for that is really, I think, something important. So don't hesitate to contact Lesley. And as you've seen, we talked a lot about quality and regulatory affairs. So Lesley really has a good knowledge of it. So I think it's really important. Okay, so really thank you, Lesley, for being on this episode. I'm sure this will be helping a lot of people. And don't hesitate for people that are listening to this episode, if you are on the YouTube channel or on the podcast, to put some comments also to share episodes also with the people that maybe you think can get help from this. It's always interesting that you can say, I think this person may be needing that, so here is the episode, and send that to them. So it will be, I think, interesting. Okay, so thank you everyone for being there, and thank you, Lesley, and I hope there will be people contacting you and getting help from you directly. So I wish you really a nice day.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.